Hello, I've got a bit of a different video for you today. So, the other day I'm looking through all my comments and replying to all my lovely subscribers and commenters. And I had a discussion with someone. You know who you are, and you'll know who you are the more I talk about this. And this person said, well, surely this particular life path is so-and-so. I'm not going to give you the details on it yet. You can wait till the end of the video. And I sat and thought to myself, well, actually, I think that person is right. Because all these years that I've been studying numerology, I study how all the numbers blend, I study how all the numbers fit into a chart and what that really means for someone's life, you know, the real meat and potatoes in numerology. Excuse me, my cat's just coming. Hello, darling, you want to go out? You do this to me. Every time. Go on in. Go on in. Good boy. Sorry. But so what I decided to do was do a full in-depth analysis of life paths, the likelihood of a particular life path happening, and when these particular life paths happen and when they don't. So, and I thought there was quite a real good load of really interesting facts that I found out while I was analysing. So I thought I'd do a video on it. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. You know, I'm a numerology nerd. So unless you're a bit of a numerology nerd and a life path 7 who loves to analyse, you might want to skip this video. But I'm hoping you really find it interesting. So let's go. So I started looking. What life paths are out there? When do they happen? How many are there out there? I'd never really analysed life paths in depth in that manner. So I did an in-depth analysis. I took every possible year total. And what I mean by that, every possible universal year, because it's part of the element of your life path. So I started with the year. And the sum total of a year is always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 or 22. And they're fairly consistent, but there's a few anomalies and a few really rare life paths. So I thought I'd let you know some of these anomalies and some of the rare life paths. Some of you will find out that you're actually quite a rare little beast. And some of you will find out your life path is really run-of-the-mill. And if your life path isn't mentioned on this video, it means it's in the middle somewhere, okay? So I did an in-depth analysis. So when I'd done every year, 1, 2, 3, every single possible year imaginable, every month imaginable in a particular cycle, and every day imaginable, it was about over 4,000 and something dates, over 4,000 dates, because it's basically 11 years. So a year might add up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or it might add up to 11, or it might add up to 22. So that obviously makes a difference on your life path, because you've only got to add the month and day to that, and that gives you your life path. That's how I've managed to do my analysis. So, but basically, we already know there are 12 whole life paths. When I say whole life paths, I mean just the life path with no sub-lessons. I just couldn't think of a better way of saying it. So there's 12 just basic whole life paths with no sub-lessons, as we know. But when you take the sub-lessons into account, there are actually 48 possible life paths. That astounds me. I've never really looked into how many there are. I've never really thought about it. I just analyse people's life paths. And then I thought, well, when you add to that the expression numbers, there's double the amount of expression numbers and more. And then you think, that makes someone a real individual just with those two numbers, and your numerology reading will show you loads of different extra elements of you. I do readings, by the way. I always forget to tell people that on my videos, that I do readings for people. So keep that in mind. I'll probably say that again at the end. So there are 48 possible life paths, and that's not including when I start going on about the expression numbers. So I thought I'd start with say if I've got over 4,000 days over 11 years, every particular month, every particular day imaginable, and I've managed to put a life path to it. And I've realised, I did a little analysis, that the life path days are pretty evenly spread, as I expected. So at the top here, so it's the number of days attributed to a life path. So you're more likely just to be born as a 7 life path because there's 450 birthdays associated with the 7 life path. And then you've got the 9, which is 1 less, the 8, they're all fairly similar with slight differences. And then you've got the 1 that's 5 days less than the highest. So it's a bit lower, but not hugely different. And then the 6 life path, you can see the number of days for the 6 life path drops to 411. However, it's had some of its days pinched by 33.6, the master life path. And when you add 411 and 38 together, you do get 449, which is similar to what is attributed, the amount of days that are attributed to the other life paths. But then you get to 4. Life path 4, so there's 308 days that relate to the life path 4, 308 days, and that's in the whole 11-year period. Remember, I'm talking the whole 11-year period. And then you have the 130, which has been poached out of life path 4 for master life path 22.4. Add those two together, you've still got a fairly low number, 438, which is quite different to the others. I found that quite fascinating. I don't know about you. There might be the odd anomaly here because I was looking at numbers for ages, like, it does get a bit boggling on the eyes. And then, of course, last but not least, I looked up life path 2 because there's only really one possible life path, 202. And there's 189 of those that occur in that 11. So there's only possibility of 189 dates that will give you a life path 2. And some of them have been poached by the 11.2. So if you add these two together, you've got 447, which is quite close to the 3 and the 5. So they're all fairly similar in the amount of days attributed to them, but there's some breakdowns for the master numbers, and the 4 life path seems to have less days attributed to it, which is weird. So, okay, so that's one weird fact that you may or may not have found interesting with life paths. Also, these, I figured, are the most... They've got the most days attached to them. So depending on the birth rate on a particular day, there's more days for you to be born to be a 156. So really the most common single life path in numerology, from my calculations, using every possible date imaginable, is the 156, because there are 260 days attributed to just to the life path 156. And then if you look down, this is like the highest 10. 167 is the second most popular or the most frequent day. All the way down here, even 11.2 is in the top 10 of most frequent days. So you're more likely to be these life paths because there's more potential days for you to be born in that life path. I mean, of course, you know, the birth rate doesn't tend to sort of be evenly spread. So there might be some life path months and areas where the life path, where the birth rate is higher or lower. It's not an exact science. But as far as days attributed to a particular life path, 156 has got the most days attributed to it. So more dates that you will be a 156 life path on. And as you can see down the list, it gets progressively less frequent till down to the 202. So that you're more likely to be one of these life paths because there's just more days attributed to them. But here is the rarer life paths. Now, all of these life paths, I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, are very, very rare blood types. So blood types, very, very rare life paths, blood types, really. Clearly not eating enough vitamins today. Anyway, so the 44.8, which some people consider as a master, well, you can do it. It's a double 4. I do wonder whether it is actually a master number. But in all the whole epicycle of years from 1, 11 and 22, there's only 3 days in all of those years that could be attributed to a 44.8. So you are very rare if you are born on a 44.8 day. And as you can see here, 45.9, only 2 people. There's only 2 dates or 2 days that you can be born in any 11-year cycle. I mean 11 years, because there's 1 to 9, and then you've got 11 and 22, which are possible year numbers as well. That only 2. And then you get more astounding here: 461, 505, 516, 527, 538, and 551. Only 1 solitary day in an 11-year period is attributed to that life path. It's a very, very rare life path, all the ones with 1 especially. So the rarest life paths I put into focus. I thought we'd have a little bit of chat about the rarest ones. Excuse me while I itch my nose again. 461, 505, you notice they're all the higher numbers. Okay, so they're the rarer life paths. And all of these rare life paths are all attributed to when the year adds up to 22. Okay, all of these are only present when the current universal year adds up to 22. And I'm going to show you how rare that makes it. Oh my goodness. So, to be a 461 life path, okay, now I've forgotten to say, I went from about 1920 onwards. I went 100 years back from today. I thought, you know, it's unlikely that someone's going to be alive longer or been born before 1920 that's going to be interested in this video. They'd have to be 100 years old and older. So I went from 1920 onwards. So all my calculations are from 1920 all the way to 2020, and I went a bit beyond as well, just to look at the future life paths, which was quite exciting. Anyway, so if you were born on the 22nd of February 1939, 1948, 1957, or 1966, 75, 84, or 93, only on these years, and on that particular day, the 22nd of February, you will be a 46-1 life path. Very, very rare. That is the only date possible for you to be born on. You have to be born on that particular year. You have to be born on that particular day to be a 46-1 life path. That makes you a very rare individual. And there'll be no more, because there'll be no more 22 years. That means years that add up to 22. You know what I mean by there, like 1975, 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 7 plus 5 equals 22. So there's going to be no more years. After 1993, there were no more 22 years. You know, since 1993, none of our years have added up to 22. And they're not going to, not until 2299. So if you were born in 39, 48, 57, 66, 75, 84, or 93, and you were born on the 22nd of February, you've got a very rare life path. But so is this person. And you notice they're all the same dates, because all these rare life paths are on years that add up to 22. I thought that was quite fascinating. My rare life paths, all my rare life paths, came from a 22 year, 1939, 48. And the year I was born, 1975. It's a fancy 22 year. Not that it makes any difference, but it makes these people's life path rarer. So again, if you're born on the 22nd of June, you're a 505. And again, there's going to be no more 505s until 2299. That's a long way past my bedtime. I'm telling you now, I'm not even going to do the maths on how many 100 years that is, but you know, it's just under 300 years before we get a 22 year again, and that will be until that time before we manage to have a life path like a 505. It boggles my mind. So if you were born in 1939, 1948, 1957, or 1966, I'm going to repeat these dates a lot. They're very, very key dates. 1975, 84, 93, on the 22nd of June, you are also a very rare 505 life path. 22nd of July, same thing, same years. Remember, all my rare life paths are on a 22 year. The year adds to 22, which again, I still find fascinating. I'm a numerology nerd. So all of these years, if you were born on the 22nd of July on any of these years listed here, again, you are that rare life path. You are a 51-6. There are not many of you living, and there's going to be none of you. Since 1993, there's going to be none of you, not for a long, long time, not until 2299. So consider yourself very rare. Again, same for the 52, same years again. 22nd of August. If you were born on the 22nd of August in any of these key years, you're another very, very rare life path. There's only one of you in a 11-year period. This is what boggles my brain. In 11 whole years, only one date is attributed to the 527 or the 516 or the 551. I'll show you the list at the end. 5 through 8. If you were born on the 22nd of September on any of these dates listed that I've repeated a million times, you're a 538 life path, another very rare life path. And it's not going to happen again for a very long time. 55-1, 22nd of November. If you're born on the 22nd November 1939 or 1966 or 1975, you're a 551 life path. Again, only one date in the whole 11 years can be attributed to a 551. So this is the list. These are all the dates for the rare life path. So if you know someone or your birthday is on this date, you're very rare. You know, you should be sold at Sotheby's for a lot of money. No, I'm kidding. No, you've got, your life path is just different from other people's life path. The core number is going to be the same, but your sub-lessons are going to be different. So I just thought that was quite an interesting fact. So these are the key dates for rare people or rare life paths. And then the reason for this is what started this analysis off, was this. So I'll give you the rest of the detail. One of my commenters, I'm chatting and we're talking about the life paths and how that person calculated the life path and how I calculated it. And there's one person that added it all up and didn't reduce. And I was reducing before I added up. And we were having a discussion about which one's more effective, blah, blah, blah. And then this lovely commenter, you know who you are, said, I'm pretty sure, no matter how you add up the numbers, the 549 life path doesn't exist. So I'm sat there and I thought, do you know what? That is so right. It doesn't exist. Through all my analysis, through searching out every life path that exists, and I'm telling you, you should see my Excel sheet. I've spent quite a few days on this, loved every minute of it, just like a typical life path 7. I love to analyze the information and put information together to find patterns, especially if it's numerology. I mean, it is my baby. And I literally, through all my putting together of all the dates, there was not one 549. So yes, my lovely commenter and subscriber, you are right. The 549 life path does not exist. So if you're a life path 9 and you've listened to my life path 9 video, this is an update for you. I should never have included the 5-4 because there is no conceivable way in the way I count the numbers up that a 549 life path could possibly exist. And that's what smashed me into doing this big analysis and then making this video for you guys. And you're only, like I said, you're only going to find it interesting if you're a nerdy numerology person. Last but not least, a few little bit more quirky details for you. So I looked at the frequency of all the years, and what I mean by is 1999 adds up to 1, 2000 adds up to 2. I was looking at the frequency of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s. And I found out some anomalies. So the years that add up to 22, not only do they give us really rare life paths when the year adds up to 22, but I started my calculations from 1920 onwards, as you know, and found that the first 22 year was 1939. And if I'd added it up right, 13, 18, 22. Yes, I have added it up right. Seriously, my maths sometimes And the last year that we had a 22 year was 1993, as I said. And as I've already put, there will be no more 22 years and no more rare life paths until 2299. And I think there's never going to be a 33 universal year, because I figured it out that there's not even going to be a 33 universal year till like 5,999. So it's thousands of years ahead. So I haven't even considered a 33 year because they just don't exist yet. And 11, there was a bit of an anomaly at 11 years. So there was none at all. And I'm going from 1920, so there might have been some pre-1920. I just didn't go pre that, otherwise I'd be there all year. So I looked past 1920 for 11 years. There was none. No 11 years existed until 2009 or pre-1920. And the last year that was an 11 year was 2018. The next one is in 2027, and we're going to have basically loads more 11 years. So every 9 years, we're going to have an 11 year, and that's going to go on for the next 200 years exists, at least. We're not going to have any more 22 years for a while, but the 11 years are into their own at the moment. So from 2009 all the way up to, for the next 200 years at least, we're going to have 11 years, okay? Not so much the 22s. The 2, okay, there's only one real life path attributed to a 2, but the last 2 life path was in the year 2000. For 20 years, a 2 life path hasn't been born, okay? There will be no 2 life paths, 202 life paths born until 2099. Don't you think that's just amazing? Unless I've completely got my head all in a pickle and got my numbers wrong, I just think that's amazing information. So I guess what I've given you today is just a plethora of nerdy information, really. I've spoken to you about all the different life paths, 48 possible life paths. They're all split quite evenly, the solid life paths, into the number of days attributed to them. The life path 4 a little bit less, and I'm not quite sure why. There's less days attributed to the life path 4 and the 22. These are the most common life paths, the 156 having the most amount of days attributed to it. Then I chatted to you about like the real rarest life paths that only come about at certain points over many, many years. And the top 6 being there's only 1 day attributed to each of these life paths in a whole 11-year cycle. Fascinating. 22nd of Feb on one of these dates. Then the 22nd of June, 22nd of July, notice they're all 22nd, master number, 22nd of August, September and November. And there's all the key dates for a very, very rare life path. So what I got me is there isn't going to be another 2 year until 2099. So some of these facts really boggled my brain. 549, looking at that and realising it doesn't actually exist. And then realising that, you know, the 22 year stopped in 93 and we're not going to get another one. Certainly not in many, many, many lifetimes, 300 at least. And the 11 is going to be constant, even though it didn't come into our lives really until 2009. And, you know, this blows my mind. The last 2 life path was born in the year 2000, or the last, not the last 2 life path. I need a drink, clearly. The last year that added up to a 2 was the 2000. 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. There's going to be no more years that add up to a 2 until 2099. Mind blown. I hope you were as mind blown as me. If you're not a numerology nerd, you know, you might as well have not have watched this video, but I'm hoping you found my information really interesting. I certainly did. I loved analysing. I loved finding out what the rare numbers were. I loved finding out everything to do with it, really. It was quite a fascinating thing. And you know who you are if you realise that you're the one that inspired me with your 549 doesn't exist. You're my inspirer. So I hope you watch this video. Just to reiterate again, and I always forget, please know that I do readings for people, and you just need to contact me and ask, and I will give you any information you need. Also, you know, if you like this video, please like it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon, because that keeps you up to date with all my latest uploads. You can email me at katie@soulexplorer.net, go to my website, or you can contact me on my social media, and I'm going to put that in a description box, together with a link to my latest Numerology Udemy course, which teaches you all you need to know about Udemy. And don't forget, contact me if you fancy having an in-depth reading with me over Zoom. I will give you a good reading. We'll have a good time. You know, we'll have a cup of tea. Just let me know if you have any questions, you want a reading, you want to use my course. The link's going to be in the description box. As ever, trust the soul within you. Don't let anyone tell you what's what. It's your gut feeling, your gut emotions, and your soul inner voice that knows best. Always follow it. See you soon.